Time now for the Sunday Talk, where we tap into the debate of the week. Tonight, 100 Days of Trump for Justin Trudeau. The world has seen the two men as polar opposites. We'll look at the impact Trump's first few months have had on our feminist-hugging, environment-loving, NAFTA-protecting PM.
You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the...
Trump came into office with a woman problem.
I am a feminist.
Trudeau, meanwhile, positioned himself as the feminist-in-chief.
Any initiative we put forward actually gets looked at as, well, is this positive or negative for women?
Trump attacked environmental regulations.
I am taking historic steps to lift the restrictions on American energy.
Trudeau has presented himself as a protector.
Pricing carbon is part of the solution.
That, plus obvious differences on immigration, have fed into the foreign media's embrace of Trudeau as the anti-Trump.
You're often cited as the kind of anti-Trump now because you believe in this old liberal order.
How does it feel to be cast as the world's new big liberal superhero?
And this week, he was heralded for saving free trade.
I got a very nice call from Justin Trudeau.
Trudeau was portrayed as a sort of Trump whisperer, talking him down from the anti-trade ledge.
I highlighted that, quite frankly, a disruption like canceling NAFTA would cause a lot of short and medium-term pain for an awful lot of families.
Trudeau has cozied up to Trump's team, including the daughter-in-chief. But back home, his critics want more substance, less style.
Maybe the Prime Minister should stop using his cell phone for selfies.
Some leading environmentalists call him a poser and a hypocrite. Unlike Trump, Trudeau is still riding high in the polls, but is he as fab as all the hype suggests? I'm joined by our panelists. Tasha Keratin is a talk show host in Toronto. Jonathan Kay is editor-in-chief at Walrus Magazine, who helped Trudeau write his memoir. And Stephen Marsh is an author and writes for Esquire and the New York Times. So, Tasha, I know exactly where you stand on this. You think that he lives up to all the hype, that there should be more congratulations.
More selfies, please. Yeah. No, I don't think he lives up to the hype. I think it's easy to position him, though, as an anti-Trump because he does hold polar opposite positions to Mr. Trump. But is he the leader of the free world? No. Canada on the world stage is not a major player, and to credit him with being a Trump whisperer, I find interesting on NAFTA. We know that Trudeau sought the counsel of someone who I wouldn't say is ideologically closer to Mr. Trump, but certainly personally closer. That's Brian Mulroney, and I suspect a lot of whispering went on there in terms of, if not what to say, who to say it to get these results. So I think that the world is looking for an anti-Trump. Justin Trudeau is probably the easiest thing to paint as such, but I think he's also painted us into a corner financially and fiscally, and Mr. Trump's policies are going to cause him a lot of problems in that regard.
So we can go into the details in just a moment, but overall, John, I mean, what do you think? Is he the leader, the new leader of the free world? Does he live up to the hype?
I think actually after Obama went out of the White House, there's only a small group of Western leaders who stand up for free trade and traditional liberal values. Angela Merkel is one of them. I think Justin Trudeau is obviously another. After that, it's a really short list. So I actually don't think it's a stretch to say that Justin Trudeau is at least helping to uphold free Western liberal values.
Stephen?
Well, I mean, I agree. I think, we're never going to be a powerful country. Like, we're never going to be the leader of anybody. Mm-hmm. We're Canada. We're in the slipstream of history. But, what our leadership has always been by example, and I think he's provided a great example of what competent, rational, liberal government looks like. And I think the idea that it's all just talk is kind of nonsense. I mean, we lead the G7 in growth. And we have competent, effective policies that you can see the results of, and that's what we show the world. And I think it really is our moment to make that statement.
I got to push back a little.
Okay,
that was a little much.
No, I'm curious. Why?
Even for me, I think it is true that Justin Trudeau has all the right instincts on a lot of issues, such as trade. However, I think that, as is the case with every politician, there's always going to be a gulf between what they promise, what they claim to represent, and the reality. And by the way, on the other side of the coin, we're also seeing this with Trump. Trump came in, he was going to be the Darth Vader figure who flipped off China and flipped off Mexico. Mm-hmm. And then once in office,
Canada.
He's flipped around. He's flipped around on China.
Well, basically the thing about Trump is whoever talked to him 15 minutes ago, that's who convinced him, and now he's decided China's his BFF. And so I think even on the other side of the political spectrum, Trump himself has probably disappointed a lot of his followers. And in the case of Trudeau, no politician ever lives up to the hype.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I don't think, I mean, yes, Canada is economically, we are doing relatively well, but I think that's also in part because he inherited an economy that was doing relatively well. And the United States also is doing relatively well, which people were very worried about how things would go under Donald Trump. But in fact, so far, so good. But I was going to say, I think the real test for Trudeau is coming because Donald Trump is going to be lowering taxes in the United States, making us far less competitive in terms of industry there. And what I don't like about what Mr. Trudeau's done is he has eliminated the possibility of Canada having any kind of margin to maneuver lower tax rates here because we have such big deficits to deal with.
Look, playing the game with Trump is not a game that anyone can win, right? I mean, it's like having a 2-year-old baby next door with a shotgun. Like, you're just trying to not get killed.
But it's not a game. NAFTA is not a game. And there are 9 million jobs in the U.S. that depend on it, millions that depend in Canada.
I agree with you.
Not a game at all.
I think I'm saying it's not a game. I'm just saying it's not a game you can win. Like, you have a person there that is totally unpredictable. No one can come up with an effective strategy. I mean, no one. He's so unpredictable that there's no way that you can either blame or congratulate people for their effective handling.
Well, we saw Donald Trump today again saying, you know, I was going to cancel it today. I would have canceled it. But my friend Justin Trudeau called me up and he said, let's negotiate. So is that brilliant, or is he being played because Trump is threatening him?
I think to a certain extent we overanalyze this a little bit because when you're dealing with somebody who has ADHD and you throw a ball and they go chasing after the ball...
Are we diagnosing Trump now?
I just think that it's very difficult to ascribe any systematic influence on Trump from China, from Mexico, from Canada, because he's so unpredictable.
So smiling and charming him is...
Well, I think you can say they haven't made a mistake. They haven't made a big mistake. Like, you look and there's no big mistake, and that's as good as you're going to get to victory, as far as I can tell, because there's no way that you can actually work out some system to deal with this man.
But you can't credit Trudeau. That's why I don't credit Trudeau being a Trump whisperer here. I think, yes, he and the Mexican president had the same signal to Trump, and Trump said he spoke to both of them. And as with Syria, for example, it was Trump had an emotional reaction to pictures. This is not exactly the actions of a rational or reasoned politician. We may have liked what he did. I thought it was the right decision, but it wasn't based for I would say, the most logical reasons.
He's the only international, certainly the only G7 leader I've ever heard of who literally makes policy based on what he sees on TV.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, recently he tweeted, "Thank you, Lou Dobbs, for talking about how awesome I am." And I thought that was the most astounding thing. It's like Obama saying, "Thank you, New Yorker, for saying how awesome I am." Like, no mature government leader would do that. But because he responds to whatever's on TV, to whoever he's just met, basically...
And Trudeau does well on TV.
Trudeau does well on TV. And also, by the way, Trudeau was very mature in the opening days of the Trump administration. It would have been very tempting to play to his base by saying horrible things about Trump. It would have made everybody in Canada feel good. It might have even made me feel good, but it wouldn't have done the country any good. And I think Trudeau was mature to hold off on
Many people did not like, and I, including myself, what Trudeau said at the beginning was basically saying, yeah, old NAFTA, yeah, we'll negotiate. He opened the door when he didn't have to somebody who wrote The Art of the Deal, who is also not the most rational person, but who's will look for an advantage immediately. And I think that was a mistake. And I think
I will say befriending Ivanka was actually brilliant.
That was good.
That was actually, you know, we're saying there's no strategy, but that was actually an excellent piece of strategy, because that is the Achilles heel here. This is the only thing that you can reliably say he will respond to.
And it's the irony for a feminist prime minister, because if a woman had done that, you would have said, oh, she's flirting, how inappropriate. But when he does it, it's okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tasha, when you see him sitting beside Angela Merkel, sitting beside Ivanka, sitting behind the head of the IMF? He's like the woman, the International Woman of the Year almost. Is this a good thing?
Well, look, I think that most people would say nobody will argue that men and women should not be equal. Equality is a good thing. I think, though, Trudeau plays this up a lot in a way that actually, as a woman, bothers me. When he crowed about having half his cabinet being women, and we found out later, ironically, many of those positions were junior. They were being paid less than the other male cabinet ministers. But this idea that you force the issue as opposed to letting it simply happen bothers me. Fine to be a feminist. If you want to be a feminist, that's fine, but don't make it such a thing. Just do it. No, make it, because then you're defeating the whole purpose. That it should simply be the way it is. Instead, he makes
proactive steps to advance a political agenda, which you promise, which is feminine. That seems to be the definition of why we elect people. And I just have to say, he has done it. Like, people keep talking about hype. There's a strange thing that conservatives do where they call him the selfie prime minister. And I just
Why is that strange? He takes more selfies than any prime minister probably ever has.
Because every person younger than me in this country takes selfies all day.
By the way,
you're essentially saying he's the young, technologically advanced person.
How advanced is that,
Tasha,
though?
can I just admit, 10 minutes before the show started, we were taking a selfie to
Exactly.
promote the show on Twitter,
Right.
and now here you come on and saying, "Oh my, everybody takes selfies." That is a really lame line of attack.
No, it's not a lame line of attack in the sense that there's a line you can draw between the self-promotion of the selfie and governing. And I think he plays too much the PR angle. We've talked about this in the early days of his mandate.
then let's
He's
talk
cut back a
substance.
little bit.
And let's talk substance, because he's given
That's what we should.
$650 million international reproductive health. He took a very strong position. He would only name pro-choice candidates to his caucus, even before the election started. I actually disagreed with that. I thought it was too doctrinaire. I thought it's a matter on which people can disagree. But he was very doctrinaire about it. So in a way, maybe too feminist even for some people in the center. You can't say that he hasn't put some substance behind his feminist bona fides.
Some substance. I mean, for progressives, I mean, this whole movement of progressives to say he's not progressive enough, or he's just the same old neoliberal shill of the centrists, like of Tony Blair, et cetera. I just think that's absurd. I mean, look what he's done. Look at the steps he's made on on Native issues, on the environment.
What steps has he made on Native issues?
Well,
He's
he
thrown a
gave-
lot of money at Native issues. No, he has. And what is better? This is the thing. A lot of things that have been done under this administration, people say, oh, he's done this, he's done. Well, how are things better on the ground? You talk to a lot
He's
of
done
First
nothing
Nations
but give
leaders.
money. I mean,
no, but he's talked to a lot of First Nations leaders. No, he's committed money. It hasn't necessarily reached the communities, hasn't necessarily improved lives.
I
They
got to
are
wrap
not
up in
happy
just
with
a
the
few
performance
seconds.
so
On
far.
the environment, John, do you think he's delivered on that?
I think he's delivered to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, he had to pick, am I going to nix all the pipeline development in Canada? Yes or no? And, he blinked. He said, I'm going to approve certain pipelines. And there's a huge environmental constituency in Canada that says anytime you approve a pipeline, you're making Mother Nature cry. So he never would have been pure enough for the environmentalist lobby unless he bankrupted
the country.
half the country. Yeah.
So much to talk. I know you're dying to get back in, but we're
Keystone,
out of time.
Keystone, can't
I'm
wait
so
till he-
sorry. We'll do this again someday. He'll be in power for a while.